Is 6:10 PM, and we will start the Board of Trustees work session with the Board of County Commissioners. Do you guys do a roll call?
No, not for
Or for
this.
anything?
This is
Okay.
like a work session for
session,
us,
okay.
so it's not necessary.
All right.
We don't have a clerk or recorder here, so.
Okay, all right.
But we do have a lawyer.
And county manager and deputy. county manager.
Sorry, Heather, I had to say that.
You all, Keith, you guys know Bentley? He's our deputy county manager in the back.
Manager, okay.
Bentley
Good evening.
Henderson.
Evening.
And you know Heather from our last meeting, correct?
From our last meeting, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Should they come up here for the microphones? Or
Um,
not necessary?
Yeah, if they're going to be participating in the meeting, if you guys would like to come up to the table, just so we
Nope,
can.
just
You're not gonna-
listening.
Just here to hang out? Okay.
If you
Right.
guys want to talk, just please feel free to use the microphone.
Okay. Easy enough. Well, the first item we've got written down here to talk about is regional transportation, so. I know,
We brought it up.
anyone want to jump in that?
We had a few citizens come in and express their need for local transportation. We talked about maybe talking to Roaring Fork Transportation and perhaps having someone representing us, but this is definitely an effort that we want to start looking at. Also for safety, connecting the two sides of the town, which it'll bring up the next discussion for the pedestrian bridge. The risk of pedestrians, people that absolutely need to go out and, even to get a bus, like the bus stop is really far away. So we have been listening to a lot more requests.
Where does the
For
bus,
public.
what is Raft's bus stop in Silt?
So right down
It's on
7th and Main,
on
yeah.
Main Street.
Going
Okay.
each
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, the fire station and the post office.
Yep.
Okay.
And basically, people living on that on that side of the highway, which is growing a ton,
On the south side, yeah.
right? They, really the only way is to come east quite a bit and then across and over. And I thought it was maybe realistic bicycle access, but we were corrected by some citizens that it's not safe to walk. There's no real path.
No.
So it's just, they're feeling very disconnected and isolated and like they don't have any access to transportation over there. And I think as a community, we could certainly do better. I
Is
think
the
we
un-
have a lot of commuters.
Is
but
the
we also-
underpass still, is the underpass being used? Is it still
It's
there?
available, but there isn't walkway or sidewalk along that whole way. So there's areas where they're walking on the side of the road, and so people are
On
concerned
the side
about
of
that.
the county road.
Yeah.
Side of the county road,
Yeah.
yeah. Along that county road to the underpass. Because that's what I was thinking, was that they could do that, because then the bus stop by Lions is there, but then also when they come out to 16th Street there, going to the bus stop, there's not a sidewalk along there either. So it's some things we've been talking about, getting some better walk paths, some walkways or something to make it safer.
And we have a beautiful park coming up, the Silt Preserve, gorgeous place for families to take pictures, graduation pictures, also on the other side. So we have great reasons to be thinking of transportation and improvements with the pedestrian bridge and sidewalks. That's going to improve the safety of the citizens of the town of Silt.
And another reason that was was mentioned was our youth, that, they're not able to get to Rifle or other towns as easily, and they are feeling sort of disconnected. I mean, the parents just expressed that that would be helpful to the kids to have more things to do throughout the valley.
There was a regional transportation meeting here in this chamber last month. I can't recall specifically who from the Garfield County Commissioners was there.
I don't think we were there. I don't think we knew about it.
Alicia Gressley put it on CRV EDP. The
I don't think we-
CEO
I
of
don't think we
RAFTA
were
was there.
invited.
Really?
Oh,
There were
That's not right.
a lot of public as well as private stakeholders took part in that meeting. I can't remember the gentleman's name. He's the CEO of RAFTA. He was there. We had some CDOT representatives participate in the discussion. I will reach out to Alicia and see if she can get you her notes from that. But it was a constructive conversation with, again, public and private stakeholders talking about the need to expand our mass transportation and public transportation options as Western Garfield County continues to grow.
So we talked with, and that's how Alicia got started on this, I think. We met with the city of Rifle, and we talked about transportation. And the biggest thing on transportation is there has to be funding. And so if RAFTA, and we'd love to see Silt and Rifle become part of RAFTA, or we'd like to see that, because we fund about $500,000 for the hogback right now. And RAFTA, and that doesn't cover it. RAFTA, I'm sure, is about $500,000 into that too, and that's just transportation from Newcastle to Rifle. And to become a member of RAFTA would require a vote, and I think it's, what's the sales tax on that? Do you know, is it quarter cent, or? There's a sales tax part of it, and then there's also property tax, so it's actually 2 votes. And so, you know, your citizens have to be, I mean, tax questions are really tough, and your citizens have to really want that. And I hope it's time now. I mean, I look at all those apartments out east, and you guys are growing. Growing, and you're absolutely right about your overpasses. I mean, that's no place for pedestrian or bicycle. And there have been deaths on that overpass. I mean, it hadn't been recent, but there was a death on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like we're due, it's just so
And,
5 years?
So,
So can I touch on the funding piece just briefly? There was a discussion about that amongst that group, and the premise was to think about a way of phasing in membership, to either have one tax or the other tax, but to come up with a model where it wouldn't be all of the taxes being voted on at once, or maybe not for the full amount. Was there a way that us smaller communities in Western Garfield County could kind of phase in our membership over a longer period to not remove the bite of having to pay for it, but to kind of delay it a little bit and get some of the services from RAFTA in return, sort of a phased integration? So there was discussion about that, and the RAFTA CEO seemed open to it. The core aspect of the discussion when it came to financing was we need to stop talking about if we're going to do it and start figuring out how we're going to do it. Because there was pretty much universal agreement from the stakeholders in the room. Nobody wants to build an alternative to RAFTA. You know, it just doesn't,
right.
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense infrastructure-wise, fiscally. Why compete with something that's already here and that's already funded?
Parachute building.
They do, Parachute has the parachute.
Yeah, they have PATS, their local
area
circulator.
transit System.
Yeah.
It is kind of a alternative to.
Yeah, and I wonder if we don't do something like that.
Well,
you know, where
Rifle
we-
works with the town of Parachute on PATS to get people from Parachute over to Rifle for services, to get to stores and shops and doctors and stuff like that. We talked about that within Silt and Newcastle potentially having a similar circulator type of a model. They do it in Carbondale as well. It just runs a loop around the town of Carbondale all day and night.
Internal circulator.
Yep. There was talk about that Silt could have a local loop.
Sure.
And then would connect with those 2 or 3 stops that would be set up so that we wouldn't have to add more stops. You could use the circulator to get to those, which would at least partially, not solve, but impact the north-south of the highway issue, because the circulator would go down there. I'm being very general, but there was a lot of discussion about these various aspects of it. And
So
all of
I
the
think
people
biggest
seemed
thing
open.
Is this board unanimous about moving forward with RAFTA? I mean, are you unanimous in that, asking a tax question?
I don't know if we're unanimous, because I am not for, at this point in time, RAFTA hasn't been in here in several years to even talk to us. I don't like the model that RAFTA runs on. If you were going to be supplemented by so many different entities, then I don't think your directors or your president should make the amount of salary that they do. I don't think they should be focused on, can we get electric buses in here? You know, I don't think that, I think there's a pay to play where the people that ride the bus need to pay more than asking all the government entities to supplement it. So I think there's a large discussion that needs to happen with what RAFTA looks like in 20 years.
Well, we're interested for selfish reasons, and that's like we would like to stop subsidizing $500,000 to RAFTA every year. It used to be 750, and then when we started, when our budget tightened up, we dropped it back to $500,000. But we do subsidize PATS to $250,000, so it's a substantial, and then you throw the traveler in on top of that, and lo and behold, we're $1.2 million.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
so-
Okay.
Yeah, there has to be a big player. I mean, we can't have 30 different modes of transportation, but
Right.
I look at it as, why do government entities supplement RAFTA? Why are we not giving money to High Mountain Taxi? You know, that can still move people around the valley. Why are we feeding all our eggs into one basket? And we haven't reached out, I believe, but I haven't had RAFTA calling to come talk to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Our town manager, Jim, he was in the meeting, and he had it on his to-do list to follow up with RAFTA and at least start the discussion to get them to come back here and talk about, to your point, Mr. Mayor, revisions to their business model, revisions to how it can be funded through the town of Silt, et cetera, et cetera. They don't want to come back to have a piece of paper that we vote on. It's sort of, they want to come back and start the discussion, because then, per their CEO, he has to go back to his board and on and on and on. I don't think it's going to be a one and done.
Yeah.
But Jim wants to get them back in here to restart that discussion so we can figure out again, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
So let me see if I'm understanding correctly, Mr. Mayor. We could say that we are unanimous in the sense that we agree that some type of transportation is needed and will be needed furthermore in the near future. Looking at house need analysis that we did, we could be doubling our population over the next 10 years or so. And we have the houses we are building, we have most of the projects that are completed that it's going to have at least 500 additional housing for the town of Silt. So that's a lot of housing and a lot of people potentially, and those projects are moving along. So we can say that we are unanimous in the sense that we want to have some type of transportation. And am I hearing correctly from the commissioners that if we are to think about alternatives, that we could potentially count on some type of support from the county if we do decide on a different strategy?
Well,
And not-
this commissioner has
And
stated
that-
that I would be in favor of that, but I'm telling you, I'm being selfish, because I would free up some of our money to do that, so.
I
If
understand.
there is a revenue source. Now, there were two votes previously in Silt and Rifle. Rifle, I think it was, I'm not sure what the vote was in Silt, but Rifle was really close in the last vote. But it was defeated both times, so.
And I
As you know, a
believe,
Mike, a tax question, it has to be voted on.
yeah, and I believe Heather might, well, I don't know, you might know this. Fred might know this. There's been the tax question for the county to join RAFTA twice.
I do not know.
I think it was unincorporated Garfield County.
Is
Unincorporated.
that what, okay.
Yeah,
And
and it failed.
then-
That
then
went
Silt,
down for
Rifle.
defeat
No, I
twice.
think it was Silt Rifle and Parachute and unincorporated Garfield County. Now, you know, it doesn't make sense to pull unincorporated Garfield County in. I mean, it makes sense to pull Battlement in, but you start talking unincorporated Garfield County, and it's Missouri Heights, and it's all those subdivisions around Glenwood Springs, and so people, they don't see a benefit.
So right
that's
now, it
kinda
would be
where-
some type of tax incrementation that would have to go into the ballot for us to look into being part of, like
RAFTA.
having,
Yeah, and RAFTA, you know, they did that with, not too long ago, they did that with Newcastle. It was voted in by Newcastle. think that was during my time as a commissioner.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we definitely wanted to get the conversation started, even if we think about alternative plans going forward, and we'll keep presenting that back to you guys. And if there is any way
Yeah,
that we can work.
we'd be happy to have one of us come and sit in at your next transportation meeting.
Yes, and I feel we need to have, this discussion with RAFTA, but at the same time, I agree with the mayor. I mean, RAFTA, they always have their hand out. It's like, do they need to spend all these millions upon millions of dollars for all these brand new facilities that they have? And to pay their CEO what they pay. I mean, it's just, and just because of all the government subsidy it gets, it just seems like they spend more money on themselves than necessarily on the public transporting, passengers, is what it seems like. But then, as a thought, Glenwood, as an experiment, they've started this they have like a couple minivans, where it's like $1 a ride. And yes, they've even said they're probably going to lose money on it, but it's just an experiment, throughout the city, where you call them up. It's kind of like an Uber in a way, where you call them up and I've heard people ride it, and, within 5 minutes they're at your doorstep, and it's like $1 a ride, and they'll take you to, if you live downtown, they'll take you to Walmart or wherever, and then they'll take you back. So I don't know if it's a viable idea to maybe partner with, maybe Glenwood or maybe the PAT system. Because historically, the voters here, if there's any tax increase, they historically vote no here. And I don't know if we team up with somebody like that. And I don't know if it would work, but my thought is, do we team up with somebody who has a ride service like that to kind of avoid having to go in front of the voters to get it approved?
You're still gonna have to pass a tax to fund something like that, unless it's funded solely through ridership fees.
Yes.
You're gonna have to go through taxpayers at some point to get funding.
The fees would be
Not even
too,
close.
the fees would
Exactly.
be too much.
The fees would be too much, it wouldn't work.
But, to
That's
start
not
out with,
gonna-
maybe the first year, you only do it, like $1 ride, just to see if you have any interest or how much interest you have.
But we have a lot of people who are commuting to Aspen that want to ride RAFTA all the way to
Yes,
Aspen.
but, I'm more or less talking about, the issue we have, across the interstate.
Right.
With all those people trying to get over here, just trying to get to a bus stop.
Well, and if we were in theory to join RAFTA, then there might be a possibility of adding a bus stop over there somewhere that they were able to use, and then it would add
Yes.
one more stop, but it would make it much easier for the people on that side of the river to be picked up.
Exactly, yes,
But
no,
if
you're right.
we're not members, they're not gonna even.
No, they're
entertain
not
that
going
thought.
to. But
Until-
there is a benefit to,
Yes.
us being a member to RAFTA, just for that reason. And maybe we can talk them into pitching in some money to help with the park and ride over there.
And the largest ridership south of Silt is gonna be from Heron's Nest, which is not even part of.
Yeah, they're in the
Town.
county right
So-
now, yeah.
But a lot of the homeowners, we've had a lot of people, we had two different groups of people now come from the tiny homes, which is part of Silt, that have come in here and asked for something.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think the amount of ridership too is gonna be so low. that We have to tax 100% of our population for 0.02% to use a service.
It's not
Yeah.
a good selling point for an election,
It's
is
like,
it?
we need to try and pass something.
There's also a cost to not doing it, right? Because 400 to 500 new houses, that's 800 to 900 cars on I-70. And that's going to have a cost. It's going to have a monetary cost as well as a time cost for all of the folks that are commuting into the valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be part of the transportation discussion to decide which way we want to move forward, and that's where we will extend the invitation to one of you guys to come in and tell
Be happy to
what
attend.
we decide, I think.
I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in. What I hear, I live on 16th, and I've got people that have walked by. I have one gal in particular, she has 2 kids, and she said she would love to ride RAFTA, but getting across Highway 6, it's dangerous. And right by Larry's place, if we did put a crosswalk, you've got a foot shoulder down. So they gotta go way down by the post office, and we've been denied a stop there because it's too wide. And so, I know several people that would, and I know more would use it, but she said, it's too risky trying to cross Highway 6 in the morning. It's just, especially if it's even a little bit dark, it's just,
It is, yes.
and I don't know what we can do for that. I think we'd get ridership there if we could just, well, like I say, we tried to get down by the post office and it was because too wide, right? We'd have,
It's too wide and
too wide.
For a crosswalk, it's too wide.
Too wide, and then by Larry Antonelli's, like you said, even coming under the bridge, there's no sidewalk. So you got about a foot of shoulder that people actually are walking in traffic. So somewhere, somehow we could, I don't know, they'd even cross up there where it's narrower, but it's more dangerous walking on the shoulder than trying to cross down below. And I don't know if there's something that can be done there, I don't know.
And if you would like us to join RAFTA, you should encourage them to come encourage us to join, because I mean, we're in discussions. We have a
I think they would be
transportation
more than
issue.
happy to do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
they'll-
so-
They want you, they want Rifle, they want you to join.
But we're reluctant to, give them all that tax revenue without feeling like we're getting something out of it. So, we're in discussions.
You've got to be responsible to your voters.
Right. And they want both. They want good transportation and they don't want to pay high taxes. So we're working on that right now.
That's the dilemma of being an elected official, isn't it? Delivering all those services, but don't raise our taxes.
Don't raise our.
I was just, 'cause I learned at that meeting that the CEO of RAFTA, he lives in Silt. So it shouldn't be hard to get him here.
There you go. Good,
He's like he's in Carbondale or Missouri Heights or something like that.
okay.
I think that's the best solution to what we've said, though, is continue to meet with RAFTA. RAFTA is a key player in trying to work something out with them.
Okay.
But I do think, I don't know whose idea it was, if you were to start some kind of a very small operation and you charge $1 or $2 for somebody to go just within Silt, that would be an interesting experiment to see how much actual usage you would get out of such a deal. Which was it? Who was it? that-
Yeah,
it was you?
I mentioned
I
that.
think that might be something you could actually do on a temporary basis,
Yeah,
just
it
to
would-
see, is that gonna fly?
Yeah, it would
Will that-
gauge
will that
interest
fly?
without a huge expense, yeah.
But you need RAFTA, so you need to continue with them.
Okay. It's good guidance.
I think we could probably put a phone call in and encourage them to come to meetings and work with that, don't you?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just don't want to be the organizing.
No,
I don't want to be the organizing agent on that.
no.
It has to come from the municipalities.
Well, Jim's
And
not here,
Alicia,
but
Alicia is trying to do that, I think.
I'm sure Jim would have all kinds of information about where he's at with them and the discussions he's had and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think,
we'll make a note to follow up with Jim about it and to have you guys talk about it.
yeah, I think one of the main purpose is just to bring like the seriousness that this is becoming for sale concern. Good.
I think we have a rough plan on that. That item and any meetings we have set up that are
Thank you.
pertinent to the county, we'll let you guys know.
Perfect.
On those ones. Next one on here was cooperation on legislative issues.
And that would be Commissioner Sampson, Commissioner Will, and Attorney Beatty. Because those are the, who's been handling our legislative issues.
So let me tell you, I think you could really do a better job in, and it would help you immensely, is be an active member of AGNC. You are a member, but I don't recall someone coming to an AGNC meeting from Silt. I'm gonna say for years now.
I
Okay.
was the last one, and
When was that?
I
I'm
had,
sorry.
it was probably 2.5 years ago, and I had to step away from it, and then, I'm gonna lead with the ending. The meetings are 4 hours long, and local elected officials all have day jobs, so I asked Jim to reach out to the AGNC people to say, can there be like an elected official download at the beginning or the end where we can participate for an hour? I was like, I can't take 4 hours out of a workday a couple of times a month. I'll be fired.
I knew
That-
in the
that-
late
that was
70s
the
when I was
challenge.
on the Rifle City Council and was a school teacher in high school, I was the AGNC representative, and I couldn't make the meetings. I couldn't leave my classroom to go to it, so
I'd love
I know
to
what
do
that
it,
is.
but
But hopefully, somebody, as an elected official, could get there. Out of,
Mr. Mayor, can I chime in a second? Lori out of my office goes to them every month.
okay?
She's made a concerted effort. There is a couple that she has zoomed into, but usually she goes on site to the meetings in person.
Right. And we appreciate that, but we need, if we can get an elected official, that makes a big deal. And then they can come back and report to you every month what's going on, number one. Number two, along with that, we have, while the legislature is in session, January through May, we have a legislative call every Thursday morning at 8:30. And Heather and I are, one or the other is there, but usually both of us are on that call. That is critical if you want to know what's going on in the legislature concerning local matters, okay? We have representatives from the towns, the cities, and the counties. That's critical that you be there and you listen and you learn what these bills are, what the impact is, and so on. So that's your best reference and resource for doing what's, I think. Now, I'm assuming you are part of CML, and they do that too. Does any, do
We
you
are
do
going to the
that?
conference this year, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I would encourage you, starting next January, to attend those. And they're Zoom meetings, they're Zoom meetings.
I attend, I'm the representative, so I go and I vote on all the CML meetings.
Okay,
And then trustee Poston and I are both going to the conference.
but I'm saying our AGNC legislative calls, they're Zoom meetings too. And you have every right to be there because you're a dues-paying member of AGNC.
I'll make you a deal. You want to
Yes,
make a deal?
But, well, I gotta hear it first.
Get them to have that 1 hour segment for local electeds, and I think your participation will go up, and I'll be the first one back in the pool to get back engaged in those meetings.
I will bring it up
It
to
just-
I will bring it up to the board.
Yeah, 4 hours is just,
But your
not-
legislative
can't
meetings
be
aren't
done.
that long.
Yeah.
Our legislative meetings are 8:30 to 9:30. But he's talking about our regular meetings
yeah.
too.
the AGNC.
I would encourage you to go to both of those, but maybe you can go to that and one of the others can attend the legislative meeting or that we
Okay.
have on Thursday mornings. But that's where you're really going to be a player in the ballgame and know what's going on and what's happening.
Okay, how do we get invited to those? Do we
Oh,
just?
you're invited. I will call the executive administrator, Tiffany Dickinson, maybe tonight, but tomorrow for sure, and have her reach out to you as a council with that. But those are over for the year, and they won't start until January,
Oh, wow, okay.
okay? Because the legislature's gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, the damage has been done.
The damage. Thank you. They're no longer in session. Good deal. All right.
And Perry's become our lobbyist. He knows everybody at the Capitol, and they know him. He knows how things work. Perry, do you want to add?
Yeah,
anything?
I'll just say that those legislative calls, and whether it's CML, and I don't know if you know the lobbyists there with CML, but those legislative calls are so valuable, whether it's CCI, I know you're not part of CCI, but AGNC or CML, those are so valuable. Because you know what the legislation is, you'll see a whole lot of stuff that they're doing over there that are a whole lot of unfunded mandates that they keep passing bills that affects
Yeah.
your town,
Yeah.
affects our
Yeah.
county. And so at least you stay in the know on what the legislation is being run, and and it's always valuable. I mean, I'm texting and calling the legislators over there all the time.
and saying, this kills us, we can't have this, you know, and then you always have the ability to reach out to your own representative, your own senator, right? We have Senate District 8 and Senate District 5 here, but, so you're kind of split, but both those legislators, and we're reaching out to them, letting them know what the town of Silt wants or needs is critical. And they need to hear from you.
Okay.
And whoever called in on the Zoom, she is correct. Jim has come to meetings. Like, I'm gonna say 2 months ago, Jim was there, and he gives valuable information at the AGNC meetings. I was meaning, nobody from Silt has been on the legislative calls. And that's, since we're talking about legislative issues, that would be critical for you to be on that.
Okay. And they'll start January.
When the next
Session,
legislative
when
session
it
starts,
starts,
yeah,
okay.
it runs, and
Yeah.
we meet every Thursday, 8:30.
Yep.
Yeah, and and more than one of you can be on there, I mean, if you want, you know.
Yeah,
I put it on my to-do list to join, and then I'll set it up on my calendar, and then
please
Yeah.
do.
it's easy to,
Yep.
I mean, that should be no problem if it's that time
1
of
hour.
day, 1 hour.
It's well worth your time.
The other thing that we do, not every AGNC meeting, but we will have Orphan Orf there, who is our AGNC lobbyist, okay, basically. They are spectacular, and they do a wonderful job of presenting and letting us know what's going on in the legislature. The thing I love about them is I can call one of them, Ted, Diane, or Richard, mother and father and son. I can call them. They'll get back to me that day or the next morning for sure. I've never not called them and had them not get back to me within 24 hours with a question I've had or a concern that I've had. They're on the ball. They're worth their money. And it's not just Commissioner Sampson from Garfield County. It's any of you as members of AGNC can call them with a concern or question. And that's really nice to have somebody like that that's over there, that lives there. They're in that building all the time. And I go, what is this all about? They know. They know what it's all about, and they clue you in.
And they stay on top of legislation that affects rural Colorado, northwest Colorado. They are great lobbyists.
Yeah, we've seen stuff coming through that we had to protect the town on the back end and do different types of regulation because the state would pass something that would affect our community on, was it the mushroom issue? I don't know. There's a-
Yeah.
Every meeting we talk
Um,
about that.
And we had to go in and create our own legislature to help protect the town and in conjunction with the county efforts to help protect the youth, you know, because of how some of those legislatures are written and they're trying to control what we should be controlling as a municipality. And it's just,
Unfunded mandates to ridiculous laws. I'll be quiet now.
I will say that
we'll fight back, you know, we
Yeah, we do too.
the current makeup of our legislature, they want to raise your kids. I can tell you that, not let you raise them.
Yeah, we'll do whatever
And
we
those
can.
those are critical. We'll end up having a special session. I know this one just ended, but probably there in, I don't know, July, August, somewhere in there, there'll be a special session because of the budget woes the state has. You know, they're down $1.5 billion or something this year, but, so they took some major cuts. They did a pretty good job trying to keep education funded and some of those things, but they're, depending on the forecast, but they're looking at some real, probably a $3 billion deficit coming into next year. So they're gonna be, they'll have a special session to meet and talk over that, but I have to tell you, from the time I was at the legislature, and under Governor Polis's reign, the state budget went up $13 billion, and there was 167 new programs. You create a monster, and it's really hard to feed. And now they're up against the wall because that monster, once fed, And that's why we were over $1 billion short this year and probably be crowding 3 billion next year. So, if you stay in tune with the legislation and what's going on, it really behoove you here as a board in the town of Sill. I will say that.
Yes, and we keep thinking creatively. I think you know, big things
Yeah, I'm around.
have happened over the course of, you know, deficits and changes.
Sure.
And we are a strong community. We have a strong sales tax also base. We are a wealthy community in a lot of different ways. And we'll make it through. And it's gonna pass. It's not
You
gonna.
have tremendous potential,
Yep.
and whether you like it or not, you're gonna grow.
Yeah, you
You're
are.
gonna grow.
Exactly. And we wanna grow the right way. We want
Yeah,
to
the right
Smart and
way.
strategic. yes.
correct and protect the people's interest. And we are
Plenty of
very
parking.
invested. Yeah, we
Parking.
are very
More water.
invested.
Okay. Everyone good on that topic? Okay. County Fair date change.
So how does that affect you as Silt Heydays?
So Silt Heydays is actually not ran by the town.
Okay.
It's the historical center, which Chris might be able to fill us in because he's a member of that
Yeah,
board.
I'm not sure how it was on the agenda, but no, I guess, you know, the issue is for Heyday, we try to keep the same date. And through, you know, whether it's intentional or not intentional, you know, for whatever reason, you know, sometimes we try to avoid the county fair just because everybody's going to go to the fair and not to Heyday, you know, for obvious reasons. So we try to avoid the conflict of being on the same weekend. So it just seems like usually the fair, you know, whatever weekend we pick, we like to do it in the fall, just so like craft fairs throughout the holiday season, we can let people know, hey, Heydays is coming up. And then it seems like the county fair board, I'm not saying you guys, I'm just saying the fair board, you know,
We
picks
set the dates.
Okay, you guys set the dates. So anyway, it seems like the date usually lands on the date that we want, and then we're trying to scramble to find the date. So basically, it would be nice if everybody kind of. Sure, go ahead.
So one of the main reasons this was put on the agenda tonight is Jim is very fond of the Heyday celebration. And since the town is a huge supporter or a sponsor of it, he saw what we went through because we had set the Heyday date several months ago, started getting the word out, getting responses, and then all of a sudden we found out that the date was going to change. So then we had to basically start from scratch again. So he just wanted to make sure that we were all kind of maybe working together that this doesn't happen again so that we can still put on a successful event and be able to plan out as far as possible.
When is it scheduled for this year? Is it the 10th? Or, excuse me, the 9th?
August
We
23rd.
changed it to,
Oh.
we changed to the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
Yeah,
no
we had it
conflict this
I
year.
think the 9th or
There
whatever
was,
that Saturday was
but then we had
until
to push it
the
back
fair.
because of the change.
Got it, okay.
And with the Heydays Committee, we've attempted in the past to dodge every event, like Burning Mountain Days and parachute stuff and the fair.
Yeah.
And it seems like whichever way we duck, somebody else weaves right at us. And so it's hard. But one of the things that there was some brief conversation about possibly even trying to do Heydays in the spring in the future versus the fall, just to get, because there's less stuff going on, to maybe try to do it then. But the weather's not quite as consistent and some things with that, so it's kind of trying to figure that out.
And we moved back to the last week before RE2 goes back to school. And we did that primarily for the livestock growers. So they would have a full summer to put weight on their animals and get their animals to mature. And we were moving more and more into July because we wanted to have a carnival, and we finally said it's just not worth having the carnival. So we're not having a carnival this year. It'll strictly be the fair and rodeo. But I think that will be the week that we'll try to have hold the fair. and rodeo.
Rifle PD might appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not having the carnival.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't offer that they have it here?
No, we don't want
Oh,
a carnival.
okay, no, we don't want
We don't have anywhere to hold the carnival.
Okay,
Where
never
we
mind.
put it?
Out in a field someplace.
Good, yes.
No power though, so.
So going forward, are you guys gonna try and have it towards the end of August?
It won't be the end of August, it'll be, because RE2's back in school, middle of August. If not, they keep moving their time up. So it'll be probably the first week in August. And
Which is what it is now.
it's
Yeah, it's
first
the
week in
2nd through the
August.
9th right now.
And I think they go back to school like on the 11th or 13th, so they go
Yeah,
to
they
school early.
Go to school early, yeah. Okay. And it's just tough, there's so many festivals and festivities that, I mean, you're gonna conflict with somebody at some point, so. That's the way it is.
But you want participation.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have a good date, it looks
Yeah,
like.
great, yeah.
Okay. All right. The remote Board of County Commissioners 2025 meeting date.
Yeah, we
Was there
have
a
that set.
conflict on that?
I'm not sure.
We changed, we had to change our meeting date in Silt because of our budget. And we needed to be in Glenwood. And I don't know if we've reset that meeting for Silt or not.
Well, Commissioners, you've got on our calendar, we have the remote meeting that you all are generous to let us have in these chambers on October 6th.
6, yes.
So that is on our adopted calendar.
Okay.
But I believe that's been canceled because of that budget talk, according to the email I got from Vola last
Yeah,
week.
I'm sorry,
Because
that's,
she was trying to change it again, and the week that she wanted to do it, we were actually closed for the holiday.
that's
So
why.
that's why she said to maybe talk about that tonight to see if we can come up with a new date.
Do you have a date that you would like to do it?
Sheila runs our calendar. I'm trying to peek over there and see what days.
Any Monday you want. I mean,
Okay, well,
if we get any earlier, we're starting to get into our budget talks as well, too, but we can certainly do a work session prior to a meeting.
This
and-
It's a
is not,
remote.
this is
Squeeze it
not a
in.
work session. This
We
is
come here and conduct.
this is
our-
just a
Right, yeah,
remote
that's
meeting.
right.
We have our
Yeah, it's not
Board
a,
of County
Monday,
Commissioners
yeah,
meeting in
Monday
these
meeting.
chambers, so it's easier for Silt residents to, they don't have to travel to Glenwood. And that's really the whole idea on the remote meetings. And we usually have 2 a year,
3.
2, well, we
We
meet.
go to Parachute,
Shoot,
we go to
Rifle,
Rifle, Annex, we go
and
to
Silt,
Silt,
but
we
not
go to
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
No, not Newcastle or Carbondale.
Not for BOCC meetings.
no, they're.
Right.
Regular meetings. We meet there, but they're work sessions.
We meet with
Okay.
them in a joint
Okay.
meeting.
Two different
Right.
types.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is considered a joint meeting
What-
with the town council.
yeah.
What's one of those Mondays at work?
Well, we just,
I think we need
well,
to take a look at our
look at
calendar
our
in more
calendars
detail.
and get back to Sheila and see.
And maybe
see
sometime in
Sheila-
November.
See what time the availability is with her.
I mean, that's what you're looking at.
That's perfect. Sheila tells us when to show.
Sheila, what was the day that Vola suggested, but you said you had a holiday?
Or move it forward.
It's October 13th.
Columbus Day?
Correct, Mike.
Which one what was?
Yeah, October 13th that we could not do.
The green ones are at home.
Right.
That's why we went for the 6th to begin with.
Would you like it sooner? Like in September or August? Or do you really care or what?
The
I
water,
don't think it matters on our side.
It doesn't matter on our side.
Yeah, no.
so the water
We'll
plant
work it out. I
schedule
think it's a
is
non-issue.
September.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just a work in progress.
Yeah.
We'll just continue to work with you.
All right.
We'll continue to have Vola to work with you, Sheila, and see what.
Okay, that sounds great.
Well, I will erase it for the 6th.
Okay,
It's gone.
I'm scratching it too. Okay.
Always do your planner and pencil.
So effects from the potential county budget cuts.
I kind of had Jim to kind of throw that in, I guess just for, I was just curious, I know everybody's cutting, your budget's cut, we've got X amount of money. I just kind of wanted to know, you know, what down the road, we have like Youth Zone and Meals on Wheels and all of that. We donate, Rifle donates, Newcastle donates. Is any of this budget cut, we have to come up with more to keep them going? I mean, that's kind of where I was going, is it going to affect any of those programs that the towns have to pitch in more to keep them going?
Well, we balance our budget, at least our operating budget, balance it to revenues. And, you know, 2 years ago, we had $40 million in oil and gas
Revenue.
tax revenues. And this year, we have $20 million. So you can see that swing and what an impact that has on us, so. But no, at this time, we're not cutting any, we might cut back some, but we haven't cut any of those programs. But that's the reason why I'd like to get out of the RAFTA contract, because,
Yeah.
um,
And that's kind of where I was going. I just didn't know, you know,
in
if
our
we have to.
discretionary dollars, we don't consider that part of our operating budget either, so.
To give you some kind of an idea on that, Jerry, we used to give out for discretionary funds, you know what we're talking about, right? $1 million, $1.5 million. $1.5 million, and there was $1 million, there was $750,000, and there was half, and now it's about 120,000 that we've had to cut back on that. Food assistance, worked out the deal with, I always forget their name, Mountain
Valley Meals and more.
Valley Meals and more. But what was it, what canceled out, and we came up with 44,000 because they canceled out? and we
Because
were shut down. What was it?
Lift Up, Mine Springs,
Mental,
mental hospital,
Yeah.
psychiatric hospital.
and you're
was,
familiar with that, right,
yeah,
Dave? So that's
closed.
closed, so that,
We used to help fund
we
them.
had 44,000. That's what they asked for, probably they knew that that was gonna be, but that was good. So we were able to shift that, but to probably answer your question is, the needs are becoming greater and greater, and our revenue is getting smaller and smaller. And our reserves, we have very wisely for the past 2 decades been very good stewards and built reserves knowing that it was a possibility that this would happen. And so far, I feel that we as a county have done a good job in providing services to our people, our constituents, but we have been tightening our belt in certain places. But I don't feel, do you feel like you as a town have been squeezed because of anything we have done?
No.
No, I just was
No, I
curious.
understand, but I wanted
you
to
know,
make sure if there was a concern or something. But, you know, looking into the crystal ball, I would love to see the present federal administration, and I'm glad there's been a change there, and that we will see our economy do much better than it did under the previous administration. To me, it was a disaster in many ways, and I'm not trying to politics, I'm just trying to point out facts. And I think the United States is going to be a lot better off next year and the year after and the year after that if things continue to go like they are going, and we can get back on track. And we as a county work with the federal government, and we try to work with the state government, but as you know, the biggest tax-paying industry is oil and gas.
Right.
And I would love for oil and gas to come back, because we see the state of Wyoming and we see the state of Utah, and they are welcoming them, and their economies are booming. I'm hoping we can continue to work with the federal government, get some things done, and put pressure on the state so that we can get back and get going. And I'm optimistic to a degree that that will happen. So that's the bright spot. That's the light at the end of the tunnel that I see. But during that past administration, it was pretty dark. We just got hammered. And then the state, I swear, the state did everything they could to kill oil and gas in this state.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
Feeling better about
I
things.
agree, yeah.
I mean, I'm on the committee there with Kirby, you know, the board of, you know, and
Yes.
we had our meetings, we discussed that every time, and there's no way of knowing what's gonna happen yet right now, but,
It looks like things are getting better.
yeah.
It does. It really does.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. The last one that was on here was pedestrian bridge. I guess before we jump into pedestrian bridge, I want to jump back to oil and gas. I think it's vital that we have oil and gas going on in this area. So what's the vision to work around the state?
Well, I think number one, the key that we have is the President of the United States is drill, baby, drill, okay? And that type of mentality. And I don't say that's a means to all ends and so on and so forth. But he's put people in Secretary of Energy and Secretary of the Interior, people who have that vision also. And I don't know if you're familiar with JOLT, but that's an organization, and they've invited, and we were part of it. We sent a letter to Secretary Berglund, Department of the Interior, to have him come and talk at next year's JOLT conference, which will be in Grand Junction. This year, it's in Rifle. They had it in Montrose once, and they had it in Craig once. This is the third time. It's going to be the 26th and 27th of June. And I would encourage all of you, and especially some of you, if you have not signed up for that, to go to that. Because who's the keynote speaker this time?
Governor of Wyoming.
Yeah, Governor Gordon.
Governor Gordon from Wyoming is going to be there as the keynote speaker. And I want to grab him after he talks or before and visit with him a little bit and say, hey, anything you can do to help us. Because I'm telling you, Wyoming and Utah are our neighbors. Their economies are taking off, and they're doing great. And we're sitting here worrying about $500 million deficit now and $3 billion next year. You know, it's just ridiculous to me, the economics of our state legislature and our governor and his administration. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I encourage you to go to this because I think this will be an eye-opener for you. To answer your question, we've been fighting them since I've been a commissioner for 16 years, basically. And we will continue to fight them. And Kirby does a wonderful job, and hopefully you are, you're coordinating with him because he's a godsend to us. He knows a lot about that stuff. And Garfield County is the leader because of how many counties is it in the coalition? Is it 13? 13 counties? I don't know what it is. 12, whatever. You know what I'm talking about, that coalition and so on. And Garfield County's the leader there. We're the ones that people expect us to lead out. And we are. And we will continue that. And there's only so much we'll be able to do on the state level, but I think you're probably going to see a big fight between the feds and the state as to what's going to happen on federal level, on the federal lands. So, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Hopefully we can outlast this governor on gas industry.
Yeah, I think
He's got a year and a half left.
Yeah.
And, Hickenlooper was more oil and gas oriented. And hopefully we can get another governor that
He worked with us.
Yeah.
Hickenlooper worked
It's
with
that
us.
way.
whether it was oil and gas, whether it was a center of excellence at the airport, he worked with us. He was good. I mean, I had a lot of good conversations with him, one-on-one. He even came to a couple AGNC meetings and spoke while I was the chairman. We invited him and he came and, you know, but not this guy. Not
I
this
think
guy.
there, I mean, I don't think that oil and gas is the eggs in one basket. I do think, you know, it is time to develop renewable energy, but you can't
Geothermal,
forget
all of it.
what works. I mean, it's a proven process that has worked and can be done safely, and there's, we just need to keep the eyes on the prize of everything just working together, so.
It's hard to attract industry with the regulatory process that Colorado has. So if you're in that business, if it's a lot easier to operate in Wyoming and Utah, that's where you're going.
Yeah.
And that's what we've created here in Colorado. It's just a regulatory nightmare, actually.
Okay. Now we can jump onto the pedestrian bridge. Literally, let's jump on it and go.
Just don't jump off it.
Don't jump off, yeah.
I guess asking if the money's out of the.
Yeah, you can write a $20 million check here, way we can get going on it. You have to do some cuts somewhere else, but, you know.
Yeah, I think this is another one that's,
Yeah.
we're so early in the stages of where funding is available that, you know, I would hope that at some point the county would be a partner in this process besides
I will
writing a
tell you
letter.
this, okay, because I've been a member of the Federal Minerals District Board since its beginning. We did help Newcastle with their bridges, and it's been a great, pointing the wrong way here, let's get this way, out here. And that's been a great blessing to that community of getting south of the river connected with north of the river in Newcastle. You have the same dilemma, I get it.
That's really encouraging,
I
too.
get it.
Yep.
So I encourage you, when the time comes and you start getting things together, apply to Federal Mineral Lease
Yeah.
District for funds. But is that what you think it's gonna cost to do what you wanna do, $20 million?
It went up to, what,
26?
23. Every time we talk about it, it's
All right.
gone up.
started out, when we first started, it was what, 9 was the one
9.
option? And you were,
Then it went to 15. And
then it went up to 15, then it went up to 18, now it's
23, yeah.
And it,
So
23.
Joe,
to
it's
me-
at
to
30%
me,
design?
We're at 30% design now. Hopefully by midsummer, we'll be at 90%.
To me, the answer to that is kinda like purchasing the Shoshone water plant. You got to get the feds involved.
Yeah.
You gotta get the big money.
Yeah.
And Garfield County, as well as other counties, came together, worked together, and we got 56 million out of the 99 million we got now. But there's a big price tag there that hopefully the feds are gonna step in.
We kicked
You-
in
you-
some.
you
I don't
gotta
know the
work-
exact
you
amount,
gotta
but we did
work
throw
with-
some in the hat to try to help.
Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
that. It is
Realize
it
it's
is noted,
important.
so
Yeah,
thank
very
you.
important.
Every little bit helps, and that, you know, everybody's got a little skin in the game. I would encourage you, when you're really, really getting down to it, and hopefully you've already done this, but if you haven't, please do it, contact Jeff Hurd's office, your congressman, because that's where the big bucks are. And say, Congressman, we need your help. Get your staff helping us. What funds are available? What grants are out there? And
As well as your 2 senators. You need to
Yeah.
talk to them too.
We're still working with Sustainable Strategies, right, for doing that stuff as well. Joe, are they helping
Yes.
with some
We do
grants?
have some
we are.
that we contract out that.
Yeah,
writes
we
our
contract
grants.
with Deborah
They've
Figueroa
done
and Sustainable
no-
Strategies. They helped us with some of the grants for the water plant. And we
Great.
continue to work with her for some of these other projects that we have coming up, because we have wastewater issues possibly, depending on what things they decide to pass that we have to do.
Yeah.
And
Your priorities may change.
Yeah. Yeah, we might be doing wastewater instead of thinking about a pedestrian bridge.
Well, I think in the master plan, which, you know, we just finished the house need analysis and we are moving into the master plan, is the balancing act of keeping all of those pieces working, even though you may prioritize at certain times, but there are things that you just need to carry until they get completed. It's sometimes doesn't have to be a choice because there are pool of funds for different types of projects. I think the key here is to continue with the planning, and then from there, looking for resources. but keeping everything moving along into the
And
direction.
hopefully you
that
get more
we
retail
should.
businesses.
Yes,
They
and
get your sales tax grows.
correct, yes, yeah. Mhm. We'll have additional discussions about potential, different types of tax that would go to specific funds, but,
Well, we
yeah.
just had a big discussion about our downtown, and we're doing a downtown campaign to figure out where it's going to be, what it needs. We have some blight.
The
We're working on.
branding. the
We're working
branding.
on all that too,
Mhm,
so,
yeah.
but
The
it's
idea-
growing a lot, so we're seeing more as we're getting all of these people coming, so.
One tip I might offer to you is keep an eye on Parachute. The Urban Renewal Authority, they formed that, and I'm on that authority with them as the commissioner, working with them. Keep an eye on what they're doing and how they're doing things.
Keith, didn't you
Okay.
have an urban renewal
we do.
authority?
We do.
We have one, yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, watch what they're doing down there. That old, I don't know what it was called, Parachute Motel or something, that's just an eyesore down there. That's gonna be raised totally, and they're gonna have, a marketplace, commercial area, as well as houses and so on. It will be a great blessing to the town of Parachute when that happens. So just saying, that's within the county, just kind of keep your eye on what they're doing and how they're doing things there. I've always been a fan of, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. See how somebody else was successful with something. So I just throw that out for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Okay. That was all that was on the actual agenda. Are there any other
I got something I was
topics
gonna
that
ask.
popped up?
I'm not a Facebook follower, but my wife is, and she got a hold of me yesterday and she said, well, look at this. And I guess it kind of blew up on Facebook about the elm trees in Silt. And some people were posting, they said, well, get a hold of the county commissioners because the county pays for taking your elm trees down.
And that's not correct.
Well, I know that, but I wanted to verify. I said,
You can talk to the state forester, and there's a state forester in Silt at the 4-H office. So you.
yeah, it was,
I'm sorry.
Rifle,
like I say, I don't
yeah.
follow it, and she happened to see it. And I mean, there was 40, 50 people responded, and I said, I don't think so. Not that I ever heard of. I said, I'd be coming to get them out of my yard.
You and everybody else.
I just
not
paid
us.
$900 to have mine trimmed back. It's like, I'll turn a bill back into you guys.
To get that done, then get them on the Russian olive.
Yeah.
What's that other bad one? Tamarisk?
Tamarisk.
Yeah.
Salt cedar.
Thank you,
Nasty
guys. We're
stuff.
kind of cutting into your meeting time, so.
We had it scheduled to go to 7:30.
Start at
so-
7:30, so
Oh, great.
we gave us time with the-
Yeah, no,
having the thing over there and everything else too.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen and
Thank
lady,
you for dinner.
being here.
Dinner
Yeah,
was
thank
great.
you.
Whoever made
Thank you.
it, whoever made that meat, it was delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
It was great. And thank you for supporting us as a county. Silt has always been a good supporter for county. And, there's other communities that are good supporters and some that aren't so much, but you can count on Silt. I've always counted on Silt.
Yeah, and thank you
are
guys
good.
for supporting us. There's a whole wall in the lobby that proves it.
Yeah, there's,
Federal mineral lease, you guys have not been neglected.
No, not at all.
That has nothing to do with the budget cuts, right? The federal middle lease?
No.
Federal mineral lease is totally different
Right,
than
okay.
Garfield.
I just
That's-
wanna
we're
verify.
separate. We're separate.
Okay. I thought so, but I
But
just
less
asked.
money there.
but there's less money there than there used
You
to be.
never know.
More
What
this
was
year.
it, about
Yeah.
5 years ago? We got 665,000. The most I think we've got is like 4.5 million. And you try to figure out, and I try to get an answer, how do you figure this out that we're gonna, nobody understands it. But what was it, our last, it comes in September, we got 3.5 million. So we never know what we're gonna get. So I never anticipate or count on it. I just, until we get it and money's in our account.
Yep.
We
What you
never know.
spent? 40 million here, right?
We have, in the 11, 12 years that we've been in business, we have given out $40 million worth of grants. We have done some wonderful things.
Yeah, that's impressive, yes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our projects have been funded partially by that.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a great blessing to the people of Garfield County.
I know we get a bunch from the water board, I'm on the salt water board, we get a bunch from there, so, and the town, so. We get it both ways.
Yeah. Is there any recourse with Mine Springs closing?
Well, Mine Springs hasn't closed. They were purchased, I mean, the psychiatric hospital's
Yeah.
closed. But,
I just kind of feel like they frauded everyone that,
yeah,
Put money
yeah,
into
there's, I mean, they were going through such a transition, and Larkin, who was supposed to be their, I guess, purchase them or be their governing body, I guess, just didn't do a good job, and really, it really kind of caught us off guard. We thought everything was going okay with the detox, and then we were told that there's a state law that by January 1 of 26, that detox would no longer be a going concern, would not meet the rules and regulations of the state of Colorado, which really kicked us in the butt.
yeah.
And so, but Mine Springs is under, I guess, contract with an umbrella organization called Spanish Peaks out of Pueblo.
Health Solutions West,
It's Health Solutions West.
which is part of the Spanish Peaks
Span-
Network.
Yeah.
Okay, Health Solutions West. And we've had some just one initial discussion with them, but how we can use that facility and still use it for addiction treatment, but maybe not as so much as a detox, but more other traditional ways for addiction counseling and so forth.
Okay.
But
We really
as far
felt
as-
like we were kind of hoodwinked in that, because how much money did we put into that facility?
We've been in $200,000. Town of Glenwood put in $200,000. Valley View Hospital put in $200,000, and all the small municipalities all participated, including yourselves. And then we had a pass-through grant of $700,000 from behavioral health. And you think behavioral health, being part of the state, could have told us that
Yeah.
this wasn't going to be viable in a year. So there's $1.3 million into that building right now. But Mine Springs themselves, which I think they are now Health West, did they take that name?
Health Solutions West.
Health Solutions West is still, they're very much involved in mental health counseling. That part didn't go away.
Well, and the
So-
hospital in Grand Junction also.
The hospital in Grand
Closed, yeah.
Junction closed, yeah.
Closed,
And they have no intentions of reopening that. But there is a new psychiatric hospital in Eagle County, which surprises me, because their populations equal the Garfield counties.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so yeah, I think they are trying to get together a group to discuss how to use that part of the building. We'll see where that goes.
Okay. So hopefully it's not just a lost cause.
It might come back out of the ashes, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you for that information. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you very
guys.
much for coming.
Yeah, thank you
good to
guys.
see
We
you.
always
Do
appreciate you
meeting
being
with
here.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tour of the new water plant, too.
Yes.
It's coming along, it's
coming
looking good over there.
Really is great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
All right,
Great
thank
meeting.
you.
And Keith, if you're gonna sell the roundabout, call me.
Yeah, if we get rid of the statue, we're calling Perry.
Hey, Newcastle has it, remember?
Yeah, I saw that. That was a good April Fool's joke.
Oh,
See if we
yes,
can
well,
auction
thank you.
that thing off.
My daughter called me, she's like, I can't believe they did that.
That was so